You've probably heard the term white gold before, right? Well, in Serbia, it's not a luxury item. It's a mineral that's literally tearing the country in half. It's a story about the promise of a green future clashing head on with the potential destruction of a way of life. This is the battle for Serbia's white gold. So, on one side of the coin, you have lithium. It's the mineral that's supposed to power our green revolution, for electric cars and clean energy. But on the other side, you have a mining project that has become a flashpoint, creating these deep, painful divisions across the entire nation. So, how on earth did one mineral become the center of such an intense conflict? Okay, so let's set the scene. Our story kicks off in the Zadar Valley, out in western Serbia. Back in 2004, the huge mining company Rio Tinto made a pretty incredible discovery here. They found a mineral that had never been seen before. They named it jadarite. And here's the really exciting part. It's packed with both lithium and boron, two materials that are absolutely critical for modern technology. So Rio Tinto's plan to dig it up, called the Jadar Project, is what got this whole ball rolling. Now, to really get why there's so much pressure to start digging, we've got to zoom out a little. For Europe, this is so much more than just one mine. It's become a full-on strategic gold rush. Let's dig into why. This quote from a high-level German official. Wow, it just lays it all out there, doesn't it? It frames this whole thing as a race against China. Europe is getting really desperate to lock down its own supply chain for these critical minerals, and the Jadar project is seen as an absolutely essential piece of that puzzle. So how big a player is Serbia on the world stage? Well, you can see it's not quite at the level of, say, Bolivia or Australia, but its reserves still put it at number 11 in the entire world. Now, for a continent like Europe, which has almost no lithium sources of its own, that makes Serbia incredibly important from a strategic point of view. And this wasn't just talk. The European Union made it official. They formally designated the Jadar project as strategic. And then they went a step further and signed an actual partnership agreement with Serbia in September 2024. This move basically cemented the mine as a cornerstone of Europe's entire raw materials game plan. And here is the huge economic prize they're dangling. The president of Serbia claims this one mine could supply enough lithium for 17% of all of Europe's electric vehicle manufacturing. He's even called it a potential quantum leap for Serbia's economy. But, as you can probably guess, what politicians were calling a quantum leap, a lot of Serbians were seeing as a complete disaster waiting to happen. So now let's flip the script and look at the other side of this battle, the valley fighting back. The opposition here isn't just based on feelings. It's got some serious scientific backing. The University of Belgrade's own Faculty of Biology was brought in to assess the project, and their conclusion was just devastating. They said the best thing to do was to abandon the project completely, to avoid, and I'm quoting here, significant biodiversity degradation. And this is the kind of data that has people terrified. A scientific study found that just the exploratory drilling led to these huge spikes in toxic stuff downstream. I mean, look at that boron up over 17 times. So opponents are asking a pretty simple question. If a little bit of drilling does this, what's a massive full-scale mining operation going to do to a water supply that serves up to 2.5 million people? And the economic argument isn't so clear-cut either. Opponents point out that the Jadar Valley is incredibly fertile land. Some researchers estimate that if you actually invested in high-value agriculture there, the valley could bring in over 80 million euros a year. That's more than double the 30 million euros they'd get from mining royalties. This conflict didn't just stay in the valley. Oh no, it completely exploded onto the streets of Belgrade and all across Serbia. We're talking tens of thousands of people rallying against the mine, and their message was loud, it was clear, it was powerful. Our land, our water, our health, they are not for sale. And make no mistake, this wasn't some small fringe movement. A poll from September 2024 showed that a clear majority of Serbians, a full 60% of the population, are against lithium mining. That kind of widespread public opposition puts any government in a really, really tough spot. So with all this intense public pressure, things got politically chaotic, to say the least. It turned into this wild story of dizzying government reversals, whispers of backroom deals, and an all-out covert PR war. Let's try to untangle this political mess. I mean, just look at this timeline. It is a total roller coaster. In early 2022, after those huge protests, the government hits the brakes and cancels the whole thing. But just a few months later, the president is out there calling the cancellation a huge mistake. Then, fast forward to July 2024, and suddenly a court ruling and a new government decree bring the mine roaring back to life. It is absolute political whiplash. At the same time, there was a whole different kind of war being fought behind closed doors. Leaked documents showed that Rio Tinto had hired a big-shot PR consultant, someone with known connections to Serbia's president, to help manage the project's image and fight back against what the company called a disinformation campaign. And then, the fight got even uglier. An anonymous pro-mining group called Copacemo, which means We Will Dig, suddenly appeared online. They said they were there to fight manipulation, but then they did something pretty sinister. They published a list of mine opponents, branding them eco-terrorists. Rio Tinto, for their part, says they have absolutely no connection to the group. So what does this incredibly intense local battle really tell us about the bigger global picture? Well, it raises these really profound questions about national sovereignty and about the true cost of our race to go green. An academic paper from the University of Belgrade really frames the issue in these stark terms. For a lot of Serbian researchers and activists, this has become about way more than just the environment. They see it as sacrificing their own land, their resources, and their future for the benefit of foreign companies and geopolitical games, a kind of modern-day colonialism. And the conclusion from those same researchers is just scathing. They argue that projects like this one have absolutely no justification, not economically, not ecologically, not socially, not even morally. They call it, and this is a quote, a neo-colonial treatment of Serbia. That's a powerful charge that changes the entire debate from an environmental one to one about national dignity. And this leaves us with a final, really crucial question. Look, the push for green energy is essential. There's no doubt about it. But the story unfolding in the Jadar Valley forces us all to ask, as we scramble to secure all the resources we need for that green future, who is actually paying the price? And is that a price we should be willing to accept?